All right, testing. Okay, that's there. Output, input, perfect. All right, testing. Yeah. I believe everything is. I hope I'm coming across nice and loud. Where is it? All right, let me hear myself. Okay, can I hear myself? Okay, I can. All right, let's get started. Just have to set everything up and we can get into it. So which one am I recording? That one. Turning off the camera, select the right mic. There we go. We are ready to go. Right mic, right screen. Recording. Okay. Look at that. Hmm. Excuse me. Okay. I think we're ready to go. Cool. All right, switch over. Switch over to this one and we are good to go. All right, awesome. Okay, now before we begin, I just need to do a quick announcement. And that is the WebWash Premium community. It's a way of me to try and monetize these live streams. Been doing over like two and a half years, nearly 3 years, 75 odd live streams, I think, at this point. And yeah, just trying to offer something a bit more. So this week, I think I've got this getting started with Drush in Drupal. That is online. And also there's one about UI Suite as well. That's just about to get cut up. So if you want to support the channel, you can get access to all of these awesome courses, which are the live streams just cut up and 0 ads. And also you get a private forum, get access to a private forum as well, where you can ask questions and yeah, get any type of Drupal support. So if you want to support this channel, head over to webwash.net/premium, and I've got a lifetime deal right now. Okay, that's it. That's enough of the selling. Maybe some at the end. We'll see. Okay. All right, so let's jump right into it. What is this? What are we talking about today? How to create tables. Oh, that's right. Yeah, forgot. All right. All right, cool. Just have to block a bot on Kick. Okay. All right, cool. So we might as well get right into it. So hello and welcome to tonight's live stream. Today we're going to be talking about how to create tables in Drupal. Because believe it or not, when it comes to all of your data types in Drupal, especially on the front end, you have images, you have carousels. People love carousels. I don't know if that's a data type or something, but you know what I mean? Like tables play a huge part in the structure of a website. Whenever there's any type of tabular data, they want to, of course, display it. Now, how do you display a table on a website, especially if your CMS of choice is Drupal? Well, that's what I'm going to hopefully answer today. because there are a few ways that you can display tables. You can display it in CKEditor, you can display it through a field, you can even write some custom code, you can even write JavaScript to embed tables. There's all sorts of ways. So we're going to be looking at a few ways to embed tables into your Drupal site. And we're going to first, of course, start things off with the simplest way, and that's adding it into CKEditor. And then we're going to take a look at a few modules. One of them will be TableField. The name pretty much suggests exactly what it does. It adds a table to a field essentially. So if you want to have your editors edit a piece of content, and then they can have a field where they can add content and tabular data into that field, then that is displayed. And then there is going to be another one which was actually mentioned today. Somebody commented on the actual event in LinkedIn. And this is why I like doing live streams. There's actual interaction. And they said, check out this module. So I quickly had a look at it, and yep, I knew how to set it up. So we're going to be taking a look at that. We're also going to take a look at paragraphs table. Yes, you can use paragraphs to create tables. And this module makes it easy to create a table. And it actually does a lot more than just create a table. And you'll see exactly just how you can use it. And then we're going to take a look at also how to use paragraphs and views to just create tabular data. Pretty simple. And then we're going to take a look at integrating data tables manually through code. There are a few modules for Drupal that use data tables, but one of them, the main one, isn't upgraded to Drupal 11 yet. And it was just easier and quicker to just show you how to implement this through a CDN. So let's start things off by adding in tables into CKEditor. So I'm using Drupal CMS for this. So we do have a somewhat set up and configured Drupal site. But what we can do is we can go to content, create basic page, and I can call this one test table page. And we can put in another description. What is a test table description? And then here we have CKEditor, and we do have right here this table button. Now, if you can't see this table button, you can configure it. So if we were to go to configuration and then go to, where is it? Text formats and editors, and then click on configure on your actual text format, make sure you see the table button in the active toolbar. Now, because I'm using Drupal CMS, this is already being configured, but chances are, if you're not using Drupal CMS or you've configured Drupal yourself, you may have to add this table in here. So if you don't see the icon, just add it to the active toolbar. And so adding in a table is relatively simple. You can you can click onto the actual table, and then you can add in columns. You can add them into the left, right. You can also delete a column. You can select a column. You can also do the same thing for rows as well. You can insert a row. You can delete a row. You can even have a header row. You can even have what is that? Why are all of those selected? It's interesting. You can even have all of those cut as header columns. Well, let's just remove that. Let's just try that again. So let me select these options. There we go. Select all of that. And then we can have that as a header. And then we can have that as a header column. There you go. And it's got a slight, I don't know if you can see it in the stream, but it's got a slight gray background so you can really control it. And then you can go ahead and put in your tabular data like so. And you can then also do a col span, I believe. You select all of that. You can merge it all together. You can do a whole bunch of stuff. And CKEditor is great for all this. Now, again, this is all of CKEditor. There's nothing really Drupal about this, but we do have CKEditor in Drupal. So of course, I would recommend that if you do want to add inline tables into your content, of course, take a look at this. Now, the other thing you can also do is you can copy tables out of Google Sheets and just throw them in there. So here I've got a Google Sheet, which I prepared earlier. And all I have to do is just go ahead. I can copy all of these 3 columns. I can just go in here and chuck them in. There you go. I can hit save. Let me publish it. And we have our tables right here. Simple. There you go. So that's an easy way of just chucking in your tables, pasting them in, and having them appear in a Drupal site. Now, believe it or not, when one of my first in one of my first classes when I studied web design back in 2002, I think it was one of the first courses where I was studying to actually offer something to do with web design. My teacher got us to actually write out HTML by hand. And to this day, I still know the difference between less than and greater than, purely because I wrote tables by hand. So I have to thank my teacher. So Phil, if you're watching, he's not watching for sure, but if he is watching, thank you. Because now I always know the difference between less than and greater than, purely because I spent a whole class, like an hour, typing out HTML tables. And it always reminds me whenever I look at these tables. And also, I started my web design, what would you call it? My web design career doing table design as well. And then this whole new popular thing called, floats and all that became popular. Anyway, so if you want to display tables in Drupal quickly and easily, then take a look at just using it with CKEditor. Now we're going to take a look at how to use TableField, because TableField allows us to add a custom table into any of your fieldable entities. So that can be a content type, a paragraph type essentially. And then what you can do is have that displayed on the front end as tabular data. And technically from a database standpoint, it stores it as a serialized array. So you have to understand that, if you want to index that content, you may have to do some extra work. I personally haven't done any type of testing to see if it works well with Search API and things like that. But then at the end of the day, with Search API, you can get Search API to render a page that has been, you can get Search API to index a page which has been rendered through a specific view mode. So if that case, then you will just output the table. So to learn more about the module, just head over to drupal.org/project/TableField. And if we scroll all the way down, we can download it. Now, I'm not going to download it. I've already downloaded it using Composer. And what we can do is jump over to our Drupal site. And what I'll do is I'll go to Extend, and I'll search for TableField and go ahead and install it. And just give that a moment. And what we can do, once it's installed, is then go to content types and manage fields. And then we can go to create new field, and we should see table field right here. And I'll call this one table. And you can control a few things from the field edit page. So you can allow users to export as CSV. You can also restrict if they can rebuild the tables, or you can even restrict people from importing to import data into those fields. And I'll show you what that means in a second. And then you can also change the table cell processing. Then if you click on that, you've got a few more options, but let's just leave everything as it is. And if we go to manage form display, you want to make sure that you only have one field widget on that. And then if you go to manage display, and let's turn off, let's go manage on there. And everything looks okay. All right, cool. All right, everything looks good there. Now, if we go to our content type and create a test TableField page, test TableField description, and scroll all the way down, we are going to see this pretty full-on widget. So when I was setting up the field, there was an option to stop users from changing the rows and rebuilding the table. So essentially what you can do is you can define how many columns and rows that the table should have. So this is a great way of like really locking things down so your editors can only enter in a certain amount of content. So we could say, actually, we only want 3 columns and we want 4 rows. And we can click on rebuild and it's automatically going to rebuild the table. And we can chuck everything in there. Okay. And let's chuck a few things in there. We can reorder it. Set it to published, and there we go. We have a table. Simple, okay? Pretty simple. It's just a basic table, and you can do whatever you want with it. Let's go back and edit the table, and if we scroll all the way down, okay, so we've looked at how to change the rows and columns, and of course, if you want to add an extra row in, you can just throw in an extra row, and you're done. And with copy and paste, this one's interesting. What we can do is we can grab a few here, copy them, and I think you can kind of figure out what this does. Paste it and click on import, and it's going to import that in and paste it in. So that's a great way of just chucking in a lot of data and an easy way of doing it. And then finally, if you click on import CSV, it's pretty much self-explanatory. You can export a CSV and import things in. And then if we click on save, we can see our table, which has title, URL, and date. Believe it or not, these titles are titles to actual live streams, but these URLs are not. I think it's the same YouTube video. All right, let's go back to structure, content types. And what I want to do is click on manage fields and go to table. And let's change this option, okay? Cell processing. Now, what does this do? Well, essentially, if we click on filtered text, it's going to allow us to select a text format. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, first of all, you can control what data is going to be rendered out to the end user. But most importantly, what you can do is if we save that, come back here and refresh and scroll all the way down, we will see this option where we can select the text format. So we're going to select content. And the good thing about this is that we can configure the text format to automatically convert links into URLs. So that means these links will no longer be just, let me see if I can wait. Can I get to the view? Okay. If we jump over here, you can see that they are not links because at this point it's still getting rendered as plain text. But if we scroll all the way down and then select content and save, now they are getting displayed as links because the text format has a filter in there which converts URLs into links. Now, you may have to clear the cache because sometimes if you do have some aggressive caching and you haven't made any changes to the content, but you've just changed this, then the cache tags may not invalidate. So you may have to just quickly clear the cache. But in Drupal, clearing the cache fixes up most of your problems. It would be great in life if, just running a Drush CR would fix most of my problems, but unfortunately not. But in Drupal, yes, just run Drush CR and it fixes up 99.9% of your problems. If not, then you need to pull out the Xdebug and try and debug the problem. So when it comes to storing tabular data in Drupal at a field level, TableField does a pretty good job. Now, before we jump into other things, let me just quickly show you what this looks like from an actual database. So I need to bring up, give me one moment. Let me just clear that. What is it? DDev status. I need to get the port. Where is the port? Oh, here it is. Let me just copy that. And I will drag that in here. We can connect. There we go. Bring this across. Go to DB. What is it? Table. Unfortunately, with SQL Ace, you can't increase it. But you can see here that it is stored as a serialized array. Okay, so the field creates a large blob and just stores it as an array. So just be aware of that. If you want to do something specific with your data, you will have to, normalize it before you can do anything. If you are going to do a lot of do a bunch of stuff with custom code, but there's no other way of really doing this unless you're going to use paragraphs to handle your tables. And the other option is to just create a custom field type and then do everything by hand. But we don't. But we do not use Drupal to write custom code. I'm joking. I actually enjoy sometimes just writing custom code the old-fashioned way, where you're not just allowing AI to, make changes. We're actually thinking about things and planning things out. I do miss that. All right. So let's jump back over to our Drupal site. And now what we're going to do is take a look at Ultimate Table Field. Now, this is another one, which I highly recommend. It works a little differently, but it is a pretty good module to take a look at if you are evaluating modules. And it is pretty new. It's been updated. It doesn't have that many installs, but it is pretty new. And you'll see it does things a little different. So go ahead and download the correct one for your Drupal site. So if you're using Drupal 11, of course, you're going to go with version 2 as of this recording. Let's jump back into our Drupal site. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go to extend. And let me just install a few more recipes because I'm going to need them. Let me install blog. Now, for people who don't know, recipes and this recommended is part of Drupal CMS, and a recipe is just a module that helps you configure certain things in a Drupal site. So blog is just going to create a few content types, a blog content type, sorry, a bit of content and also a view. And this is all new if you have just stumbled across Drupal recently, or if you haven't used it for a long time, you might be like, oh, that's all new stuff. Yes, it is. All right, so we have now our blog content type. Let's go to list. Let's search for, what is it? Field. No, what is it? Was it table field? Ultimate table field. And we're going to let that install. Let's go to content types. Manage fields. And I'll call this one, where is it? Ultimate field right at the bottom. I'll call this one another table. We're going to be using the word table a lot today. And with this module, you can, the cell type plays an important part. So a cell can have, so you can think of the cell as having its own like data type. It can be a long text, link, file, or text. So we'll just install all of them and we'll click on save. And if we go to manage form display, or you can only select ultimate table, that's fine. And then manage display. Let's turn off layout builder because it's just easier to see the options. And we do have a few options here, but we'll look at that in a moment. Okay. So let's go to our blog. And we do have a pretty basic looking widget, and I'll explain it in a second. So let's create a test blog page. I'll select this one. Description. Set that to published. And now what we need to do is add in a column. So think of it like this, okay? You first want to add in your columns. So the columns are kind of the header. So you have like header 1, header 2. So call this one header 2. Then you have header 3, okay? Now, it's probably hard to see, but there is a slight gray background. Well, where is that? It's a slight gray background here, okay? And you can add in multiple cells or data items in the one cell, because technically a cell is just, yeah, so, but right now we've got these header 1, header 2, header 3. So if we save this, we will see a table with header 1, header 2, header 3. But then it says no entries available. So let's go back and edit. Now what we can do is we can add in a row. And then that adds it right down at the bottom. So we can add in data 1. We can add a link here. We can link to one of the pages. And then finally, we can add a long text field here. And we click on save. And you can see that the link isn't appearing. Why isn't the link appearing? Add a text in. Data 3. And let's click on save. No, for some reason, the link is not appearing. And then click on edit again, and you can just continue adding in your rows and just adding in and creating out your tables. Now, as far as I can see, there is no quick and easy way of adding in content. And I do think that plays an important part because, yes, the UI works pretty well, but you want to be able to just throw in a lot of content very quickly. Whereas the previous module had that, where you can easily upload CSVs and just throw them in there. And I do think from a content editor standpoint, as somebody that writes content online, I can't stand repetitive work. Sometimes if I need to do the same repetitive things for like 10 minutes, I look at the time and it feels like an hour's gone by. That's why I struggle sometimes with editing videos, because it's too repetitive for me. It's just the same thing over and over again. So don't ask me why I got into doing videos. Well, no, the reason why I do these long live streams is because I don't have to edit videos, because even if I do a short 10-minute video, to get 10 minutes of content, I probably have to record 30 minutes and spend 2 hours editing the video. That's why I do these live streams, because right now it's going out and that's it, it's live. So that's why I do it. And let's go to content types, manage display. Let's check out our formatter. What you can do is you can enable a bunch of table styles, and you can also change the color as well. Let's give it a blue, see what happens. If I refresh, oh, there you go. Got a nice little blue, and it's got a nice little hover. That does look pretty good. That does look pretty good. So if you are evaluating fields to manage your tables, then take a look at Ultimate Table Field. Now, another way of handling and creating tables is to use the paragraphs module. Yes, the good old paragraphs. It's a very, very versatile module. Very versatile. You can use it for many things. To create layouts, to create tables, to create structured components, to create like a feature set. Yeah, I'm just trying to think. I'm working on a current project where I might utilize paragraphs in a unique way. And when I say unique, because I've got an idea on how to use it. But I'll talk about it later, but I just need to test it out. Anyway, I shouldn't mention anything, but because it's kind of like saying, I've got this great idea, but I'm not going to mention it. But no, I do have a requirement for a project, one of my own websites, where I want to allow users to have a set amount of parameters on on like a content type essentially, but without having to create a custom field. Because with Drupal, when you create a custom field, it adds a database or adds a database table in your database. But I want users to be able to define custom properties on a piece of content without having to create a custom field. So I thought I could use paragraphs for that. But then I can allow them to use a set of paragraphs and treat that as kind of like a content type. Anyway, if it actually works out, I'll do a video about it. So let's go ahead and install this module. So what I'll do is I'll go to extend and I'll search for paragraphs and I'll install paragraphs table because that's just going to install everything. And yes, we need paragraphs, of course. And what we're going to do is create a paragraph type called row. But again, it depends how you want to define your content model. You may not want to call it row, you may want to call it something else, but I'm just going to keep it simple. So I'll call this one row because then the table itself will be controlled at the content type level through a field. Okay, so let's go here. Let's create this. And I'm going to then create 3 fields. So the first one will be name. The second one will be summary, but this will be long text. And the third will be number. Just call it value. All right. And you can pretty much keep everything as it is. You may want to adjust. So the module pulls out the order of the columns based off the actual order of these formatters. So if you want the table column to be in the order of name, summary, value, then you want to leave it this way. If you want value to be first, and of course move value to the top. We'll just leave everything as it is like that. And now what we need to do is go over. Let's go ahead and create. Well, we're not going to create another content type. Let's just go and install the case studies. There we go. Let's install that one. And go to content types and click on manage fields. And I'll select paragraphs. And we'll call this one paragraphs. I know it's original. It's a silly name. Trust me, I've called a paragraph field components, modules. No, that's about it, really. It's either component, and then of course I've used paragraphs for very specific data. So then we called it like project type or properties. Called it many names. That's the thing I kind of struggle with in Drupal, naming fields. Naming things are hard. All right. Now you want to scroll down, and one issue I did find with the module is that you need to select which paragraph type you are going to use. So you need to tick it. Okay. And I'll show you what happens if you don't. All right. Let's click on save. And if we go to manage form display, you also want to change the widget to paragraphs table. And if we click on the cogwheel, we can configure a few things. You can put in like a widget feature, which is duplicate. But keep everything as it is and click on save, okay? Then on manage display, let's turn off layout builder. And the reason why I want to do that is because then we can have a look and add the actual options a lot easier. All right, so you do get 2 formatters. So paragraphs table and paragraphs table JSON. JSON just displays everything in a JSON format. So you might want to use this if you have like a headless setup. Yeah, there's many reasons for that. You could technically do this with a bit of custom code as well. It's not that hard. But the one that we're after is called paragraphs table. And you'll see that there are a few options, but let's just leave that as it is. Okay. So now let's go ahead and create our case study. I believe I put that in. Did I? Yes, I did. All right, perfect. And now we can see, well, let me scroll up the top. Test case study. Set that to published. All right. Is description still required? Yeah, it is. All right. Let's scroll all the way down. And now what we can do is we can add in our table. So name, summary, and we can add a value. We can add another row. Value, add another row, and then a value. And then we can also duplicate and remove. And then if we click on save, all right, we get a table, but we do get these extra options. And this is where paragraphs table is a little different to all of the other modules. Well, it handles data, of course, very differently from a database standpoint. But what you can do is you can have your own UI for entering in extra data. So this is pretty fancy. I must admit, I was pleasantly surprised when I was playing around with this. Okay, because I can see some use cases in having this type of UI. You can come along in here and you can edit, and you do get this, well, get your own controller and your own form to manage all of this. And you can also duplicate directly from the front end. So you might have a situation where you don't want users to edit the content, but you want them to just edit the paragraph. Now, I haven't tested that out. That should be possible with permissions. At the end of the day, you can write your own custom code if you want to handle that. But being able to do everything from the front end is pretty useful. Let's go back to manage display. And if we check out the options, let me make sure I'm not covering anything. No, I'm not. All right, good. Let's scroll up. Okay, so you can control the view mode and the form mode. That's pretty much self-explanatory. Then you have your table modes. This is where you can display your table in different ways, essentially. So you have data tables. That's a popular library for managing data. You have bootstrap tables, and you can even display it as a Google chart as well. Now, one of the benefits of, say, the bootstrap table, this probably needs a bit of front end, but you can enable, where did I see that? Oh yes, the summary. You can actually have a count field which just sums everything up. But this is just a feature of bootstrap table. And we have value because value is a number field. So it's smart enough to know that it's a number field. So if we click on save, probably need to style this. Yeah, it doesn't look that good. You can see that it does actually add it all up. We haven't put the library in there. That's why it's looking a bit funny. But if we switch it over to data tables, and refresh, we will get a more nicer looking table. You can filter, you can also copy as well, and you can search as well for your items. And that's all thanks to data table. Now we are going to look at data table in a bit, but if we go back here, we can also, where is it? You can also select Google Charts. But if you are looking for a powerful charting system in Drupal, then check out the charts module. Is it the charts module? Or if I get it wrong, Drupal charts. Because I did do a live stream on it. Charts, yeah, it's charts. And the maintainer actually helped me out a fair bit with one of the modules. This suite of modules, there's a lot of them for charting, is absolutely epic. Seriously, it is epic. And the maintainer, oh, Daniel, that's right. Got his name, apologies. He actually pinged me just before I was going to do the live stream and mentioned another module that he's been working on. And yeah, I was blown away. It's a great suite of modules. Great suite of modules. So if you are looking for charting support in Drupal, then I would recommend that you take a look at this. I don't know how integrated. Well, no, this is paragraph. So technically you can create a view because it is data. You could create a view to then display the charts. There's a lot you can do with charts. There's a lot. So if you want this specific functionality when it comes to creating your tables, so if you want to be able to add in, click on add and create your tables this way, then paragraph tables may be the module for you. However, if all you want to do is display paragraph data in a table, you don't even need to use this module. You can use good old-fashioned views. Now, of course, views can be used for anything, really. Well, not anything, but when it comes to simply querying and displaying content, that's what views was built for. So let me now show you how you can use the views module to create just a basic table. It requires a bit of site building. I'll say 5 minutes. Anyway, let's put a timer on. I don't have a timer. Maybe I should have a timer on. Oh, okay. It's now, well, let's close this off. And click on save. So now we have no more tables. Oh no, tables are gone. It's all right. Let's fix that up. All right, let's go to views, add new view, and I'll call this one case study table. And the view setting, let's just select case study and we'll create it as a block and we'll just leave everything as it is. Now, this is the views UI. Now, for people who don't know views, what is views? That's a very hard question to answer. It is a query language. Essentially, you can query your Drupal content and then render it out. But you can use the views module to create a table, to create a listing. You can use it to create maps. You can use it to you can actually use it for all sorts of things. If you want to learn more about just the views module, I do have a live stream over at the YouTube channel that you can learn more about it. So check it out. I think it's called Getting Started with Views. But yeah, even better, join the WebWash Premium community, and I do have that video as a course, and you can ask questions as well. There you go. Sorry, I had to do a bit of selling. All right, so let's go ahead now and configure this view so that it will display the paragraphs. Now, we need to set up the view in an advanced way because we need to utilize both contextual filters and relationships, because from a database standpoint, a paragraph itself is its own entity. And the paragraph, so every single, let's go back in here. So every single row essentially is an entity, and it references this case study. So there is a reference from the entity, which is the paragraph, to the case study. So what we are first going to have to do is configure views to load up the case study. That's the first step. So we'll take this one by one, okay? So first what we need to do is set up a contextual filter. And a contextual filter, think of it as passing arguments or parameters into your view. Back in the day, it actually used to be called arguments, and then they changed it to contextual filters. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I never liked the word contextual filters because we already have another thing called filters down here, but that's called a filter criteria. As I said, naming things is hard. And I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not one of those people that think that I can do a way better job than a bunch of developers. When it comes to open source stuff, yes, I might have opinions, but there's probably a reason why people did it, and it will probably take me months and months to get to that point. So I'm just happy to work around it. No software's perfect. All right, so let's add in a contextual filter, and we want to use ID, because essentially what this is we are going to pass the contextual filter. So if we come back here, it's going to use the ID from the path. Now, of course, you can't see the path here because it's got a URL alias, but the best way of looking at it is it's going to grab the ID from here. So we have node / and then 60. So let's select ID, and we'll then select provide a default value. And this is important. Then from type, you need to select content ID from URL. So when we embed this view as a block, it's going to automatically grab it from the URL. Okay, that's important. And then click on apply. And now we can test things out by just putting in the ID, which is what, node 60, and I can grab that just by looking up the top here, okay? So if we pass in 60 and hit preview, we should see case study, test case study. Now, if I create another one, let me just create another case study. Now I'll just put in another table and click on published. All right. Now we need to grab the ID. What's that? 61. And if we pass in 61, we should see the other title. Okay. So at this point, it's simply loading up the case study. Now we need to get the actual paragraph data. So let's create a relationship and search for our field, which is, what is it? Paragraphs. And then put in paragraph referenced from fields, or paragraph fields. And we also want to make sure that we require the relationship. And now if we search for 61, it's going to return, because it's essentially doing a join. So that's why we get duplicates, okay? Because it's going to return a row for every single paragraph. If we put in 60, it's going to show us the 5 rows because there's 5 paragraphs. And now if we click on add, we should see paragraph here in the category. So we can add in name, what was it? Name, summary, value. Let's add a label in. So what's this? Name, we'll add a label. Which one's this? Summary. And we'll add in value. Okay. And if we scroll all the way down, we can see our name. There you go. Our content. And let's scroll back up to format and change this to table. And this is where it becomes a table. And we can click on apply. And if we scroll down, we can see our actual table. Let's remove content and click on save. And if we search for node ID of 60, we can see our table data right here. There we go. And 61, we should only see 2. And there you go, it's working. All right. So we have our view. Now let's embed it into the page. Let's click on save. And let's go to case study, default. And there's 2 ways. This is a block. Okay, so there's 2 ways of adding this to the page. We can do it through the block layout and then add a condition, visibility setting, I think that's what it's called, to only display it on this content type. Or what we can do is switch on Layout Builder, click on Manage Layout, and we get this error. Yes, I've noticed this error a few times. This is something I have noticed. All right, let's go back. All right, let's close this off. I have no idea if it's these items, one of these modules. Let's do that. There is an actual issue for it, but I haven't been able to consistently sort that out. does happen intermittently. All right, let me just quickly double check. Let me do that again. Okay. No, still happens. All right. That's on card. No, it's still happening. All right. So let's forget that. Yes, you can do it through Layout Builder. That is one way. The other way is to go through Block Layout. And let's go down to Content Sidebar. Let's just add it to Content. And we'll search for, what did I call it? Table Case Studies. There we go. And we can add in, what is it? Content type. And let's restrict it to the case study. And click on Save. All right, so if we go back here and go to another case study, we will see our table over here. And if we go and edit, let's make sure. Oh yeah, you want to make sure that this is set to all. Let's click on Save. All right. And if we go back to our other test case study, you can see the table is getting displayed right here. And the view is smart enough to grab the contextual filter, which is the content ID from URL. So it grabs it from the URL and then just passes it through the view, and then the view just figures out the rest. Now, in the back end, it does grab the node ID. Of course, we can't see it. We just see the URL alias, but it does grab the node ID. So there's a lot in there. So it's doing a lot in the back end. It's doing a lot in the back end. Let's stick with views now. And let's just create a standard table using views, because believe it or not, this is another way of creating tables. That is just to use the views module for it. And I've covered this in the past. So I've created many backend screens with, backend tables, which are accessible to admins. So if you want to create, if you have a need to create a table through views, then, you can do so. So what I'll do is I did generate some test content, well, a bunch of test content. You can see here, basic page. And so what we're going to do is go to the views module and pretty much do what we've done already. So let's just click on add view, and I'll search for, what are we going to call this? Basic page table. And I'll just pull in the page, basic page. We'll create a page for it. And that's it. Okay. And let's change the layout, the style to table. And we'll add in a few fields. So we have title, which is great. Let's add in, what is it, content? Authored by, authored on. All right. Okay, everything's there. Content. What I'll do is I'll reorder. So if you want to reorder things, you can easily do that. And let's put in a label here called title. All right. And then if we scroll down, we can see a table essentially. You can see that, you can see the custom table that we added to CKEditor has been added in. That's why we can see it. Let's go ahead and fix things up. Oh, that's a bit too big actually. Let's filter the content so that it is trimmed. Let's set it to, 100 characters. There we go. It's nice and trimmed. So with a table, you can do a few things, okay? First things first, you can set the filter criteria here. You can control exactly what type of content is being added. Okay, that's the first thing you can do. You can also add in, let's add in title, and you can expose the filter to users. And this allows you to create essentially little filtering widgets on your table. So the operator shouldn't be equals to, let's just add it to say contains. And if we go to this page, what is that? Basic, let me just copy that. And paste that in. We now get a title here. So I can type in one of the titles and then it's going to just simply filter it by the title name. You can also put in a sort criteria. So if you want to sort it by certain things, you can also adjust the pager as well. And if you go under advanced, you can switch on Ajax and you can also adjust the exposed filter, how you want it to work. Now, I've covered a lot of this stuff in the past. I think I do have an advanced views video over on the YouTube channel, so check it out. Okay, so I've got a comment in YouTube. Cool, cool, cool. Hi there. Okay, so we've got a comment also in LinkedIn about a showcasing the power of CKEditor 5 with advanced Bootstrap 5 customization. Oh, that's pretty cool. That is pretty good. Where is my LinkedIn? My LinkedIn is not loading up. Give me a moment. Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, you can actually do a lot with Bootstrap 5 components in CKEditor as well. All right, so where were we? Okay. So when it comes to controlling your tables in views, you can see you do have a lot of customization. The other thing to be aware of is you want to also make sure you control the access to your table as well. You don't want to create a backend page and then just still leave it as view published content. That's very, very dangerous. Now, if we click on settings right here, we do have a few options, okay? We can control if it's sortable. So you can make a column sortable. You can also set a default as well. And you can also do a thing where you can merge columns together. So let's just say we want authored by and authored on to be together. Let's move the authored on to authored by and then click on apply. And then if you scroll down, you'll see here on the right-hand side, hopefully I'm not covering it. No, I'm not. You'll see it. You'll see that it is now merged in. But you also have the ability to put in a separator. Where is it? So let's put a separator in there. And now things have been separated. Well, let's just remove this. Now we have this nice little separated value. So that's a great way of just merging the content in a single column. Another feature that Drupal comes with, and that is responsive tables. So if we click on settings, you will see this option here called responsive. Now, at first, I was a little confused by this. It took a while for me to figure it out. But essentially what you're doing is you are defining a priority. So you have medium, so you have high, medium, and low. Essentially, any column which is set to high, now by default, they're all set to high, means that it'll be displayed on all devices from mobile up because it's high priority. But if you set it to, say, medium, that means it will only be displayed on tablet and up. And if you set it on low, it will only be displayed on desktop. So let me just change this, and so then we can actually see this. And if I change it to settings, I'll click on settings. Let's leave title set to high, content set to low, so it should only be displayed on desktop, and authored on should, or authored by will only be displayed on tablet and above. And we click on apply. And we click on save. And what we can do is go to our table, and if we inspect, we should see a few priorities here. There you go, priority low. Let me just zoom that in a little bit more. We should see priority low, priority medium, and the title, or maybe high is just high. It's always available. Maybe that's it. Now, if we resize this, well, let me bring this back up. Zoom that out and resize it. Well, nothing happens. And the reason for that is because the theme has to, as far as I'm aware, the theme has to support the responsive tables. So this Olivero Drupal CMS subtheme does not support it as far as I'm aware. So what we can do is we can go ahead and switch it to the backend theme, which does support it. I know that. And what we can do now is if we zoom it in, well, let me just zoom this, put this down, bring this down. And if we bring it in, you will see now we have this show all columns. You can see that the summary has been removed. If we zoom out, there you go, you have the summary. If we move it in, we only have 3. And if you click on show columns, you can see it. And if we make the screen size a little smaller, you can see authored by is gone. And then you have to click on show all tables or columns, sorry, to see the rest of the data. That is pretty useful. That is pretty handy. But yeah, just be aware that the front-end theme needs to, well, the theme that you're using it on needs to support it. Needs to support it. All right, so when it comes to creating tables, from a module standpoint, we've looked at, what is it, TableField? I forgot. Let me just double check. TableField, Ultimate Table, Paragraphs Table, and then we took a look at just the paragraphs in general, and also the Views module. Now let's pull up our sleeves and write a bit of custom code, and let's implement everything in code. So let's create a table in code, and we're going to take things one step further. We're also going to integrate a basic version of DataTables using just the CDN. So we're going to pull in DataTables through a CDN, and we're going to do this all through custom code. And no, we're not going to use AI, unless we get stuck somewhere, but I doubt we will. All right, let's jump over to the editor. And I'm going to start things off by creating a module. Now, I'm going to use Drush generate for a few things, and I'd highly recommend that you do that as well, because it just saves so much time by using Drush generate. All right, so let's go ahead and type in Drush generate module. And we're going to call this one custom, used for, oh wait, no, that's machine name, sorry. Custom, used for custom package. Yep, yeah, that's fine. All right, and we're done. And if we go to modules, we should see our beautiful 5 lines of code. That's it. Just 5 lines of code. All right, now we need to enable it. Now you need to enable it because if we want to create a controller, because now we need to create a controller, okay? If we were to put in controller, we need to add in the machine name of the module, but you'll only see the machine name if you've installed the module. That's why we need to quickly just run drush en custom. And that's going to install it. And then what we can do is go to controller. And if we search, we should find our module name using the machine name. And we'll just leave everything as it is. That's a class name. That's fine. No, don't want dependency injection. The route name, that's fine. And let's give it a different route path. We'll call it custom table. And we're done. And if we jump over to our code, we have a routing.yaml, and this is where you define the path, title, the controller, and also the access. And if I click on command and click on the controller, it's going to take us directly, and the controller's in source controller, then the controller class right here. And if you are using PhpStorm and you're thinking, how did I just click on that and go there? And I can also go back this way to the route. What you need to do is you need to have I think it's the Drupal Symfony Bridge and also the Symfony component. I think it's either one of them or both of them. I always install Symfony Drupal Bridge component or Drupal Symfony Bridge component. I always install that one. And I always install Symfony plugin. Oh, but I do have this Drupal extend. What's this one used for? And also you want to install this Drupal extend as well. And I know, sorry, this isn't a live stream about PhpStorm, but there's also PhpStorm has Drupal support. So yeah, you want to make sure that you have that enabled as well. And then you do get nice little components. All right, so here we have our controller and our URL. So all we need to do, if everything's been working and set up, is go to, what was that? Custom. What was the path? Custom dash table. That's it. And now we don't have that. All right, cool. Let's clear the cache. Chances are that's going to fix it up. There you go. As I said, clearing the cache fixes up all of life's problems. And we have our table. Oh no, sorry, we don't have a table. Sorry, we've just got an item render array here, which is right here. All right, so now we need to create our table and we essentially use this element. So if we click on this item, you will see that you do have a lot of these, what are they called? Well, they're called like elements essentially. And if you scroll down to table, you will see that there is one for table. So let's jump back here and we'll change this to table. See all these options right here. And we also need to put in an array. So I'm not going to write this up, but I'm just going to chuck this in. So this is our data. And it's just got module name, version, and also the installs. And now what we need to do is put in what is it? Headers. Header. And this is going to be T because we need a translator. And then we need to put in our actual column names. So that's going to be module name. And I'll repeat that. Next one's going to be, what is it? Version. And the next one will be installs. Okay, so we've got that. Next is rows. There we go. We're just passing then the row array over to it. And finally, we need to put the empty behavior as well. Okay, so if it's empty, it's going to show this bit of information. And if you click on table and if you go to the actual class, you will see all of the options here. Get info. So this tells you exactly what options are available. And if you scroll up, you will see a few more options as well. Okay. And now all we need to do is go back here and clear the cache again. Let me just make sure that this is all working. Yes, it is. Refresh and we're done. There you go. And what I want to do is just make sure that I've turned off caching. Let's go to performance. Let's turn off aggregated caching. Okay. And if we go to development settings, oh, there we go. And we want to turn off markup caching and put it in twig dev mode. There we go. Now we're not going to have to run drush CR. And that's a recommendation. If you are going to write a lot of custom code, just turn it off. But make sure you turn it back on for when you deploy. Very, very important. Okay. So when it comes to creating a table, there you go. I mean, that's how simple it is to create a table. You do have more complex code you can use, but for the most basic, you just pass it a simple array like this, and then it's going to display a table. And all you need is, of course, the row, and you also want like something for the empty text and also the headers, and that is it. All right, now let's implement data tables, because data tables is actually pretty cool. I really like data tables. And there is a Drupal module for data tables, but it's yet to be upgraded to Drupal 11. And when I tested it out, yes, I could get it installed, but then I had to download data tables anyway. And and the other thing was, it only really supported like an older version of data tables. So I thought, you know what, I'll just pull data tables in through the CDN. So let's do that. And what we can do first is go to our module and we will create a libraries YAML file. We'll call this one custom.libraries.yaml. And I will just paste all this stuff in because I'm not going to write it out. And essentially what this is we have the name of the library. You technically do not need this, but it's always good to have, just to do it the proper way. So because we are pulling in from a CDN, we have remote, we've got the version name, and we've also got the licensing as well. But this is the most important part, the CSS. And so this CSS has been scoped to the theme area. There are certain scoping of where the CSS will load up, but this is more of the front end stuff. And I have done a video on library assets and things like that in Drupal. And you can see that it's pulling it in, it's external, and we've also set it to minified because it is minified. And then for here, for JavaScript, just pulling in the JavaScript file, again, external, and it has been minified. Now, one thing we have done is we have removed the protocol. So we're not hard coding if it's HTTP or HTTPS. That is a common thing to be protocol-less so that it just automatically handles it. based off, I believe, the site that you're running on. There's a reason for it. That's what they recommend. All right, so we have defined our library. Now we need to load it up. Now there's multiple ways of loading up libraries in Drupal. You can do it, most of the time you do it at the theme layer. But what we are going to do is let's do it at the controller layer, because anything that's essentially a render array can load up a library. So what we can do is we can come along in here and type in attached. And what we're going to do is put in library, and we're going to call it, what is it? It's always the module name, and then it's the actual name right here. And that's it. So it is going to attach it. Now you can add in as many libraries as you want, okay? So you can go ahead and enable, and the order does play an important part. So if you do have dependencies and things like that, it does play an important part. If we come to libraries here, well, we don't have any dependencies at this point. And what we can do, we should be able to just go back to our site, refresh, check the console. Shouldn't get any errors. But most importantly, if we view the source and search for data tables, we should see it getting pulled in. Perfect. All right, cool. It is. It is getting pulled in. Great. And we can search for the JavaScript as well. All right. And JavaScript is getting loaded up as well. Awesome. Now, before we move on, let's just test everything out. What we can do, this is a cool thing that I like to do, is let's add in a class. So we'll add a class, because now what we essentially need to do is write a bit of JavaScript code that will invoke and load up data tables. And what I want to do, yeah, that's it. Put in attributes, and we're going to put in a class, and we'll call this one enable data tables. So now, if we come along in here, this should have a class called enable data tables. Awesome. And now what we can do is just type in new data. Let me do that again. All right, cool. New data table. And it should load it up. There we go. See how it's all been loaded. And we can sort, we can do all this type of stuff, and we can also search for things here. Paragraphs is going to load up. There we go. Okay. All right. Now, of course, you're not going to expect your users to open up the console and type that in every single time. So let's now write a bit of custom code, a bit more JavaScript, and we will create a behavior and we'll paste this stuff in. All right. Now, what we are going to do is go into here, type in what is it, JS, data tables dot JavaScript. That's all right. And I'm going to put in another library item. And what this is that it's going to load up. Oh, let me change this name. All right, it's going to load up here, refactor. Click on refactor. So it's going to search for www-datatables. You can see that the path needs to match this path right here, but it is relative to the module. So that is js/dub dash data tables. And we have a few dependencies. So it needs to load up the Drupal core library, the jQuery library, and also, most importantly, it needs to make sure that the www_custom/DataTables CDN is also loaded up. So these libraries will be loaded up before our actual library itself. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we need to create a behavior. So let me add a bit of custom code here. And what this is pretty much just boilerplate code. Okay. We have our Drupal behaviors. Now, behaviors are our internal system in Drupal. And essentially, it's a mechanism to just apply these changes to the DOM in a very specific way. So every single time Ajax is changed or something is changed in the DOM, Drupal's smart enough to pull out and run all of the behaviors in a specific way. So if we save this, and let's just do, of course, good old console log. And we first want to make sure that things are getting loaded up. So what we can do is we can now go into our controller and actually get rid of this one and just call up, what is it, data tables. Go. Because the CDN is defined as a dependency. So we don't have to define that ourselves. So if we come along in here, refresh, of course, the data tables is going to remove, but most importantly, do we get a console log? No, we don't. Okay. Chances are I need to clear the cache. Because, or maybe I typed something in wrong. Anyway, let's see. Data tables, let's double check data tables. Data tables, that's pulling in the right. Yep. Refresh. There we go. There we go. Hello, hello, hello. And here you can see, okay, this is a perfect example of behaviors. You can see that this has been loaded up 10 times, essentially, 8, 8, and 2s. Because every time the DOM is changed in the backend, Drupal's smart enough to go, okay, let's load up the behaviors and fix things up because stuff has been changed. Because if you've done any type of web development in the modern age with like React or Vue, managing one of the hardest things, like they always say, the hardest things in computer science is invalidating cache and naming things. And I think the third one is managing state in a managing state in any type of website is very hard. Because when you make a change to a certain component down at the bottom of the tree, it's like, how do you propagate that change across the rest of your web page? That's a very hard thing to do. So you can see here that things have been loaded up a few times, but let's just continue building things out. And what I'll do is I'll use the once function, because you can see that this has been loading up, well, the behaviors is being loaded up multiple times. But what we can do is if we chuck in, okay, let's get rid of this first. All right. So what we're essentially going to do is this once function. This is actually a Drupal library. It used to be, I think there is a jQuery once, but essentially it just sets the value, runs once, hence the name once, on the element, and that's it. So we can add an ID of saying, data table loaded once, and then the selector is this enable data table. So this bit of code will simply go through the DOM, find any class with enable data tables, and then just load it up, loop through it and load it up once. So here, if we put our hello in here and we reload, we should see, there you go. The console log of hello is just loaded up once, and that's it. And now what we can do finally is we can remove this, and because it's found the actual table, we're passing that as a context. So it's loading up the table and then just attaching the data table directly to the actual table element. And we can also configure a few things here. So putting in like menu length, 5, 10, 25, that's for the dropdown. So if we refresh, just going to go ahead and it's going to work all the time. And you can see here that, yes, this has been changed. So you can change the options. If you go to the documentation, you will be able to see what options we have. And we can change it to say 20, 25 or 5. And you can click and search. So to run through the code, it's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? But no, it does make sense. You just need to, do it a few times. So we have our controller right here, which is pretty much rendering out the table. That's the most important part. You need to render out the HTML somehow. Then we have our library pulling in the data table via the CDN. You could also load this up from the file system. That's up to you. Then we have our data table actual file, which is simply looking for this class, enable data tables, and then just invoking it. And the good thing about this is that we could come along in here and simply remove this. And it's not going to load it. Now, one thing I do want to try, let's try this out. Let's see if we can add it to a view. Can we add a class to a view? Yeah, we can. So if we go to our view, let's go do that. Now, I did not practice this, so watch me fail miserably. Let's save that. And let's go to, what's the page? Basic table. Basic page table. Basic page table. All right, cool. We got this. And now if we come over here, row class, sweet, there we go. What is it? Enable data tables. Click on apply. Click on save. Refresh. And it is, that's why it's not loading up. It is not loading up because we need to add it. So what we can do is I'm going to hack the module a bit. Well, I'm going to hack, what is it? The theme for now, just to get it over the line. Where's the theme? There we go. Let's go in here. Libraries. This is what I want. And we're adding custom data tables. Why not? Clear the cache. And what we can do, refresh. There we go. It's getting loaded up. Of course, in the view, you may want to perhaps just display everything. And you can see all of, there we go. Look at that. Look at that. And you can search for blog. Look at that. That's pretty easy, wasn't it? It's actually pretty, it is pretty good when you can just load things up through a CDN and then just do it through JavaScript. And the good thing is AI loves JavaScript. There's nothing more that it, like it is an expert at JavaScript. Try and get it to load up something, figure something out in Drupal, it's going to struggle. But JavaScript, you can easily load that up because there's just more training data. Believe it or not, JavaScript's a little bit more popular than, say, Drupal code. All right, so that is pretty much it for this evening. we've covered a lot. Okay, we've looked at a lot of modules. We've looked at the table field, ultimate table for handling data in fields, then paragraphs table, and we finally finish things off with views and our custom, our gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous table that we produce with a bit of custom code and data tables. And it's actually good that data tables is still around, like it's still kicking. There was a big move because it was originally, I think, heavily integrated with jQuery. It's been around for a long time, and I think they finally pulled out jQuery, and it's still used a lot, which is great. It hasn't been deprecated because a lot of these older libraries that used to be popular in the jQuery days are slowly dying off because everything's now React or Vue. Well, no, React, let's be honest. So it's good to see that it is still alive and it works pretty well. All right, so that is it. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more about Drupal, just head over to webwash.net. If you want to also check out other videos, check out our YouTube channel. And apologies, this is going to be the third and final time. If you do want to support the channel, head over to webwash.net/premium. We can grab a lifetime deal and also get access to a community. Well, you get access to me as well. We can ask questions. And if I get enough people in the community, we can do private live streams. That's the plan. I really want to do that stuff. I just need to get more people. And, so yeah, join it. If you have any questions, please leave it in the comments. And I'll catch you all next week. See you later. All right. So, oh, how was that? All right. Thanks all. Oh no, thanks all for joining. Really appreciate it. Oh, good way to spend a Friday night. Well, did not see. We did go over time, eh? Hour and a half. That's why my back is killing me. Oh, I realized I just sit down for way too long. And I do have a standing desk. But the way I stand, then it hurts my knees. I'm getting old. That's the problem. I'm a Drupal developer. We're all getting old. I feel like whenever you go to like Drupal camps or cons, well, I don't go to cons. I can't really afford it at this point. But whenever you go to those Drupal things, Drupal communities, it's always the same people, and we're all getting old. We need to bring some fresh people in, and I'm doing my best talking about how awesome Drupal is. Doing my best. Yeah, this paragraphs table, pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. Anyway, I do believe it is, what is it? DrupalCon Vienna is on next week. Is it? Yes, it is. So there's going to be probably a lot of chitter chatter about things in the Drupal world. And I was even thinking, yeah, I was even thinking of doing a watch along of the Dries notes. So when Dries, who's the Drupal project founder and leader, when he does his Dries notes, that's like his keynote. Every conference he does it. I was thinking of just live streaming a kind of like a watch along. We're watching it at the same time and doing live commentary because that's the most easiest type of content to produce. It's like those reaction videos. It's like, man, sometimes you see those cringy videos of people reacting to other videos and they're just laughing, and that they're probably fake laughing. And I think to myself, please, when I get to that point where I'm doing that type of content, just hit me over the head. But I probably will do it because, eventually, if he gets the views, don't hate the player, hate the game, eh? But no, I think it'll be fun just to have a live stream go on for, for Dries Notes, because it's always interesting, especially now, just seeing what's happening in the Drupal world. AI stuff, of course, Drupal CMS. I do believe the Canvas is going to be announced or something around Canvas. Drupal, what is it, Drupal AI 1.2? Speaking about that, need to do another probably updated live stream on that. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, it's going to be fun. I was planning to go to Vienna, but none of my sessions got accepted. And so I kind of decided not to go because I do believe if you get a session accepted, you get a free ticket, and the tickets aren't cheap. I really couldn't justify spending pretty much, what is that, nearly 40%, nearly 50% of the budget on just the tickets when I can get, for the same price, flights and accommodation there. So yeah, next year. I'll try next year and see if I can get a session here. Maybe I need to just, maybe my sessions were just terrible. I don't know. I haven't had much luck, actually, getting sessions into a DrupalCon. I don't think I've ever spoken at a DrupalCon. One day. One day I'd get the opportunity. One day. So when is the actual program? Let's see. So Dries Notes should be on... Come on. When is Dries Notes? Oh, nice. Okay, good. It's not early. Well, it's good that it's my time zone. So it's at 1 o'clock. Easy. Get in half a day's of work, and that's it. Oh, that one would be pretty good. Oh, DDev, yes. Love me some DDev. And then the big one. This one's going to be popular. You can straight away, which ones are going to be popular. This one will be pretty good. This one, If you want to learn about GitHub Actions, go to this session. I know the presenter. He's very good at what he does. So yeah, you'll learn a lot there. There's some good sessions. Hopefully these will be online pretty quick. And Drupal CMS now and beyond. Yeah, I'll be curious to see that. Oh, Pam's doing it. Oh, good. That one will be good to watch as well. And I do believe there's also some stuff around UI Suite. Around UI Suites, that'll be pretty cool. Contributing using, this will be fascinating. I'd love to see that. I'm a Claude Code user. All right, cool. All right, well, let's just leave it at that. Hopefully these sessions will be up and online pretty quick. There is a lot of Drupal CMS stuff. How to build a site template. Oh, that's pretty good. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's just leave it at that. I'll try it. I'll see about this watch along. I mean, is it going to be an issue if I actually stream the feed into my feed, like a screen share or something? Am I allowed to do that? I don't know. I just don't want to upset the Drupal Association. I don't know. It's like I think once a month or once every 2 weeks, I get a little note Sometimes people say that, oh, my posts are too, are too, what was it? Yeah, a bit too, you know, SEO-y and, that I'm trying to promote things. It's like, of course, man. It's like everyone's promoting things. Anyway. Oh, that would be good. Revert recipes. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing someone. Oh, this Randy Fay. He's one of the maintainers. Yeah, he's one of the maintainers of DDev. He's doing a lot of sessions. Yeah, I wouldn't mind learning about recipes as well. That's another session I want. Well, another live stream I want to do here as well about recipes, because I've got a few ideas about recipes that I want to implement. Oh, nice. Drush 14. Love me some Drush. There are some good sessions here. I will try and get to a few Drupal camps. I think the Drupal camps, when it comes to bang for buck, I think, yeah, the Drupal camps are probably a bit better. They're more intimate, smaller. You just meet a way, more people. Because I feel like, oh, look at him, another one. Because I feel like when you go to these big Drupal cons, there's certain groups of people are very clicky. Like they all just kind of merge, and yeah, sometimes you feel. Now I've been to a few of these Drupal cons, and everyone goes into their little groups, especially if everyone from, like, say, an agency comes together, they all just go out for dinner. It's sometimes very hard to find people that are on their own, or maybe I'm just not social enough. Let's be honest. I don't know, but I feel like at the Drupal camps, people are more open. But if you do get an opportunity, it's not to say Drupal cons aren't worth going. They're absolutely worth going to if you get the opportunity. Okay, cool. All right, let's leave it at that. It's been a long stream. Anyway, take care, and I hope you all have a great night. All right, see ya.